there are going to be many parts to this episode, I guess, of so you want to cut off a limb. But number one, and I think the most important from the people that I have spoken to who've reached out to me to talk about wanting to cut off limbs, the big thing that people talk about is being afraid to talk to their family, or they have already spoken to friends and family who have called them crazy, which I can relate. So this needs a video of its own. If you are wanting to chop off a limb yourself, probably some good talking points in here for you to discuss with your family. Also, probably a really good idea to get them to watch this video, if they will. Now, I say that because my mum, totally on board with my invitation. My dad, absolutely not on board. And I mean like really not on board. Up until I had it done, and I'm going to say even the first few months afterwards, till I was on a prosthetic, he was not on board. And heads up, if you are a family member watching this, or you're perhaps having to make the decision for somebody and you're watching this, I'm going to say one, try and make it to the end, because I'm going to bring up some good points. If somebody's asked you to watch it for them, not for me. I don't give a shit about the followers. I care about maybe helping at least one person get through this whole experience. You're probably going to hate it. I'm probably going to piss you off. My dad would have hated it. He would have hated it. I'm so opinionated, and he would have been like, the fuck you to tell me like about my daughter and like her he would have hated it, but he would have watched it. If I asked him to, my dad would have sat down and dealt with my opinionated little dude telling him about cutting off a leg. So please make it through for your friend or family who's asked you to, or yourself if you have found this. I'm going to try and keep it like as short as possible and just like really hit the points. One, if somebody is coming to you and telling you that they want to cut off a limb, if they have gotten to that point, like it is really hard to actually understand that yourself, like how much pain they're in. To go like, I'm going to ask a surgeon to cut off my leg, and to openly say that and to ask for it to be done and to talk to family members is huge. To get to that point means they are suffering a lot. It means they are in chronic pain. That is huge. That is not just a whim. That is, they genuinely see prosthetic as a way out and as an upgrade from whatever the limb is that they are stuck with at the moment that is just not working. And you might not be able to see it, but a prosthetic leg can be a huge upgrade from the foot or limb that they have now. I'm just going to say foot because that's my experience. Yes, compared to a working foot, my prosthetic is not as good. But if they're at that point, they're never going to get that working foot back, right? Like I mourned that working foot well before I amputated, because I was never going to get a working limb back. I was never going to get a working foot back. I had the foot that I have. Your friend or family or whatever has this limb that they have that is not working, whether they were born with it, whether they had an accident and have it. A working limb is never going to be possible. But a functional prosthetic that reduces pain exponentially and lets them be active, that is possible. That is within reach. The chronic pain that I had before the amputation was, I literally woke up and was like, oh my God, that chronic pain is gone. And it's never coming back. I never have to experience that again because I got rid of this foot, and it was glorious. At the end of the day, there are only two reasons that a foot gets amputated, limb, whatever. It is because it is going to kill the person, broken down into whatever subcategory, whether it be cancer or gangrene or lack of blood flow, whatever, death, or it's never going to work properly again. So that's it. You are either asking somebody, if you're telling them they're crazy and that they need to keep their foot because you can't comprehend not having a foot that looks like a foot on your body, you are asking them to deal with death or a limb that never works. And now the limb that never works includes chronic pain and a lack of quality of life, the inability to do things that they want to do and to do them comfortably. If somebody is looking at a prosthetic and they know that that is going to give them a better quality of life, that is all that matters. And compared to those two options, a prosthetic limb is a pretty big upgrade from death or no function. The questions that you need to ask, and it's relative to individuals is fit for purpose and quality of life. You need to be asking the people that you think are crazy or you can't comprehend it, how does this limb affect your life? Like, what can't you do? How much pain are you in every day? You need to be able to understand that and ask them those questions. And you need to be able to fathom that, like, is the foot that they have fit for purpose? Does this person want to play sports and run and travel and walk on the beach and hike and backpack and like whatever? If they do and the current limb doesn't do it, then it's not fit for purpose. And if they want to do those things and they can't and they're in chronic pain, which is horrendous if you've never experienced it, then their quality of life is diminished. So can a prosthetic be fit for purpose and increase quality of life? The answer is yes, do it. If you have asked somebody those questions and you can still say to them, like, you're crazy and you shouldn't do it, and you should just keep living with the foot you have because it looks like a normal foot, that's cruel. To ask someone to continue living in chronic pain, not at a quality of life that they want, that's cruel. It is so cruel. Chronic pain is horrendous. Honestly, it's just cruel to expect somebody to continue living that way when there is an option. And yes, I admit and I talk about the issues that come with prosthetics, and they do come with issues, but they come with some of these issues, but I can do this when I couldn't even do this. Like walking around Woolworths hurt. Getting out of bed in the morning hurt to my soul, like makes me want to be sick. Pain when I stood up every day. People were happy for me to keep living like that because I had a foot on my body. It is just so unfair to say that stuff. Like to go like, yeah, but it looks normal, so you should just keep living your shitty life because you have a foot that looks kind of normal. Your legs, like prosthetic legs, don't have to look like this. This is my choice to put flamingos on it. You would walk past amputees more often than you would even know, and I walk past them and don't even know that they're amputees. If you're a guy, you can have like this, they have put this like silicone skin on it that you can tattoo and there's hairs in it. Like you would have no idea. Women have heeled feet, so you can wear your heels. Like I don't wear heels. I wanted to spend my money on a running blade instead. But you can get heeled legs. You can get so much stuff. Like if you don't want it to look like this, it can look like a real leg. So, and I mean like looks shouldn't matter. Yes, looks matter, obviously, at some point, like looks come into it. But the biggest thing should be function and getting quality of life back. But then, yes, if you don't want it to look like this, it doesn't have to. You wouldn't even know nowadays. I have honestly like never had anybody tell me I can't do anything because I'm an amputee, like you won't be able to do this or that. Not ever. No able-bodied person has ever said that to me, ever. A few amputees have, but they were just like miserable old bastards who didn't really want to, I don't know, attempt to do anything on their leg. Anyway, they were just like miserable. But I've never had somebody make comments about like what you can and can't do. Like I've never had comments about the way I look because of the leg. Like never. So like I just don't even think that should be a factor in a thought process either. My mum, she actually had a really good argument that she used with people who thought I was crazy, said I couldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. She, especially, there were a few that said that who had like knee replacements and hip replacements. My mum pretty much just said like, well, why do you have the privilege to amputate part of your body and have it replaced with a prosthesis? You get that privilege because it's internal and it can be sewn up and nobody sees it. But my daughter doesn't get that choice. She's crazy because she wants to do the same thing. It just happens to be externally because the internal option doesn't exist. You've lived with this chronic pain in a joint and you understand how bad it is and you jumped at the chance to replace it. And my daughter can't replace hers because it's external. She's crazy and you say she can't do that. And that hit people, I think. Like you talk to anybody who's had hip and knee replacements and the pain that they're talking about, that chronic joint pain, like is horrendous, and they jump at the chance to get it replaced. Usually, not everybody, most people jump at the chance to replace it. And so mine has to be external. Who gives a shit? It's the same thing. It's the same right to choose. And people say they want to replace hips and knees and nobody is asking them to. That's a lie. Surgeons do ask them to continue living with that pain because they're too young to have the replacements. That's a whole other argument. But by the time they can actually get it, when it's like, yep, you're old enough to get it, People aren't calling them crazy. People aren't asking them to, like, I don't think you should do that. I think you should just keep living with that chronic, horrible, gut-wrenching, want-to-vomit joint pain that you have every day that is stopping you from, like walking upstairs, walking around Woolies, like you should just keep living with it because your knee looks normal. Like, nobody would do that. That's so unfair. And that's exactly what people wanted me to do. Just keep living with it because then it looks normal. And then, like, we don't have to see it looking strange. I don't give a shit that mine had to be external. I got the same relief, probably more, and I'm so active. And people deserve the choice to have that. Also, very important to note, if a surgeon is the one saying it needs to be amputated, like, trust me, they've tried everything. Surgeons are not, like, trained to just amputate willy-nilly. In fact, I opted for an amputation over an ankle fusion, and that took a lot of discussions and a lot of talks for my surgeon to go, okay, I agree that we will do the amputation rather than fuse the ankle for a lot of reasons. That's in another video that I didn't want to. But they're trained that they're failures. They're trained that they're not good outcomes. I have a very different opinion on that because I now have this amazing active life that's pain-free. Yeah, there's little hiccups with the amputation, and that's what the rest of these videos will be about, ways that you can mitigate the risks of nerve pain and, like, all the rest of it. But if a surgeon is the one saying it needs to be done, like, first, it needs to be done. I can't understand how they could see them as dysfunctional and failures. Now I have one and I'm so functional, but yeah, if the surgeon is the one saying it, then... And surgeries, it's not just that chronic all day, everyday pain. Having surgery after surgery after surgery of joint surgery, like, I've had shoulder recos, I've had other surgeries, and, like, damn, let me tell you, shoulder surgery, it's a fucking walk in the park. Like, ACL reconstruction, like, all of that, you think of, like, a really big surgery. These are, like, most people with these wanting to amputate a limb, like, we're talking, like, way bigger recoveries than an ACL, MCL, way bigger recoveries than a shoulder reconstruction. They are painful. And most people at this point have gone through so many. Like, at what point do you stop having to do another year recovery to then maybe have another one to, like, then have another year recovery? Like, years and years and years and years and years go by that you don't get to live and you're in pain. Like, when does it end? And, like, here's a hard truth that maybe you don't want to hear, but I know for me it was something that became very evident after all these surgeries and the thought of even more that probably won't work, and then, like, oh, when that doesn't work, we'll then amputate, is that I could literally be dead tomorrow. And sure, that's morbid, but we have no guarantee on the length of life, right? So surgeons going, like, no, let's fuse, and then, like, it's a year for, like, full recovery, and then you spend the next year, like, wanting to be active, and then by that point, you probably, like, ruin the midfoot, then you need another fusion, and then, like, then we'll amputate. So in 3 or 4 years, we'll amputate after more surgeries, huge recoveries, more time to end up in the same place to then get you functional. And I said to my surgeon, I could be dead before you give me the chance to actually live and be active again. I could be dead in 3 years. I'll be hit by a car tomorrow. So let's amputate, and let's give me a chance to live now while I'm young, and let me have a chance to do stuff now while I want to. And yes, that's morbid, totally agree. However, I think that thought process becomes a lot more evident for people in this situation, going, like, just get rid of it now so I can live, because who knows, I might never get the chance to live with a functioning whatever, whether it be a prosthetic, cool. Just give me the chance, give me the damn chance to live. And it just becomes, for me, it became a lot more evident because you just look at all the time that you lose, and you just want me to lose more time and be in more pain and have more surgeries, and, like, oh, God, when does it end? Just end it. God, just end it. Get me on a prosthetic and let me go. Look, they're the big ones. Very opinionated. Clearly, apologies, but you need to be understanding, like, the chronic pain, the level of pain to, like, get to going, like, hey, I want to cut off a limb. And most people saying this know that they're going to be more functional on a prosthetic. We just all need to stop having the view that losing a limb is the end of the world. In fact, for most people, it is quite literally death or a prosthetic limb or never functioning again or prosthetic limb, so it's an upgrade. mourn the foot, sure, or the limb, mourn the working limb. Absolutely, I'm not saying don't do that. But like, for example, I mourned mine well before I decided to amputate. So the foot or the limb that's going it's not a functional limb. It's never going to be a functional limb again. So let someone have a functional limb. Amputations are just not the end of the world. As an amputee, it's really sad that people think it's so horrendous when it's quite literally the opposite. People look at it and think it's sad when you should have looked at my old foot and thought that was sad, but nobody did. Nobody looked at that thing that caused me pain, that makes me want to spew thinking about, and nobody looked at that and thought, poor you. But they do with the leg that lets me live. This leg that lets me walk on uneven surfaces and up hills, which I couldn't do on my old. I had to walk up hills backwards and be in the sand, and like tomorrow I'm trying water skiing, and like I can overhead squat, and I'm running, and it's my flesh foot that stops me running on the other side, not my prosthetic can just run for days, and I can like lunge and burpee and just I can like, sure, there are some limitations, yes, and I talk about those and I'm open about those, but there were more with my old foot, and people look at me and think it's sad when you should have done that before. And then they're not this horrible thing. They are the opportunity to live. And when people are at the point that they can see that and they're going like, I am looking at prosthetics and I'm going like, that would be better than what I have now. Like, be open to it, because chances are it probably is going to be better than what they have now. And it's going to be life-changing in a really good way. Like a huge way. Okay, so I'm done now. Rant over. I don't read YouTube comments and stuff because people are just like brutal, to be honest. I literally don't give a shit about the views. I don't give a shit about the comments, like the followers. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm literally here so that if one person watches this video and it makes the discussion with their family better, or if one family member watches this and they go like, okay, I'm going to sit down and like actually listen to you and it makes the process easier, that's it. So if you want to reach out, I talk to a lot of people, like people reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram is the same, like oneleg_onelife. Totally happy to answer messages there. Nothing about the amputation is off limits either. Like, ask away. Totally happy to. Again, I don't on here because like comments are just a bit brutal. I just don't even look at the comments on here. So if you do want to reach out there through Instagram, and like I said, I'm totally happy to talk to people. Happy to be open about like all the ups and downs, and there will be more videos coming very soon with all of that anyway. So okay, so I'm done now. Rant over. I don't read YouTube comments and stuff because people are just like brutal, to be honest. I literally don't give a shit about the views. I don't give a shit about the comments, like the followers. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm literally here so that if one person watches this video and it makes the discussion with their family better, or if one family member watches this and they go like, okay, I'm going to sit down and like actually listen to you and it makes the process easier, that's it. So if you want to reach out, I talk to a lot of people, like people reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram is the same, like oneleg_onelife. Totally happy to answer messages there. Nothing about the amputation is off limits either. Like, ask away. Totally happy to. Again, I don't on here because like comments are just a bit brutal. I just don't even look at the comments on here. So if you do want to reach out there through Instagram, and like I said, I'm totally happy to talk to people. Happy to be open about like all the ups and downs, and there will be more videos coming very soon with all of that anyway. So